specific model of rifle used? What's the policies or circumstances when those rifles are used?
Chief, could you answer that?
I do not have the specifics on the weapons. We have policies that generally cover our response, not specifically around when those weapons will be used. But I think it's important to note that in the last several years in law enforcement in general, officers are using rifles now in response to what we're seeing on the street. We place our officers in really complex situations when we ask them to respond to shootings, and so it's not uncommon. But there's not a clear definition in our policy on that.
Can you elaborate on when the circumstances those have been used particularly?
Yeah, so our officers, if they're responding to a shots fired call, someone they know to be armed, it's quite common for them to respond with a rifle, and that's kind of best practice across the country as well.
Again, a reminder to keep one question at a time, please. Derek?
Yeah, how many times was Jazmir shot and where?
Yeah, that's not Chief.
Yeah, we don't have that information, and that will be part of the BCI investigative process.
Based on the video that you have watched, and I'm assuming you watched more than what was released to us because some of it's been blurred, what actual life-saving rendering aid was provided to Jazmir by police before paramedics arrived? Was there CPR? Was anything done? Chest seal? Did they actually do anything during the time before they rolled him over and handcuffed him?
Yes, so the officers are clearing that and start to apply chest seals, but prior to the paramedics arriving, or as the paramedics are arriving.
They did apply the chest
Yes.
seal, or they started?
My understanding is they started to at that point, and they began to put one on, yes.
Okay. Anyone over here? Go ahead.
So, Mayor, I want to be clear, and maybe, Chief, this is a question for you. The weapon that Jazmir had, was that inside a zipped-up pocket? So when the officers encountered him, just trying to clarify your statement, was he brandishing a weapon, or was that weapon?
We do not know what the officers saw in responding to the scene. What I was speaking to is what you see in the body camera footage when they approach him. So we do not know, and that will be, again, the subject of BCI investigation.
We saw in the body cam footage, officers asking to check the parking lot where they had heard shots fired, and I know you said you found the 2 bullet casings. Do we know if there's anyone else involved that may have been shot at in the parking lot, or anything additional in regards to what happened before the shooting?
We do not have those answers at this time, no.
This is for the mayor. You spoke about teens with firearms and some of your desires to fix some of these issues. A lot of the scope of possible solutions for some of those things aren't under the standard powers of a mayor. Do you have any frustrations in trying to solve this with that in mind?
These are issues that we've been talking about this year. These are issues that the community has been talking about for a long time. Safety, education, protecting our youth, giving our youth exciting, empowering things to do, and helping keep them out of trouble. These are all things we've been working on. They're not the subject of this specific incident and why we're here, but it is something that we as a community, as a society, have to be relentlessly focused on. And so you'll continue to hear from this administration about ways in which we are trying to protect our youth, empower our youth, and support them. So I appreciate the question.
Derek, go ahead.
Did officers make any commands to Jazmir before opening fire?
We do not have that information. It'll be, again, the subject of BCI investigation.
Chief, this is specifically for you. Part of the reason that we don't know the answer to questions like that, and whether or not he was brandishing a weapon before the body camera came on, is because we don't see it, we don't hear it, we don't know that. What is the policy regarding the use of those body-worn cameras?
So we have a policy which is available online on the use of our body-worn cameras, and we can provide that as well. The policy is when we respond to a call, our officers should activate their body-worn camera. There are exceptions built in if there's something that occurs quickly that they don't have time to do that, and I just don't know what they perceived at that point yet.
Doug?
What's the name of the officer who pulled the trigger?
We are not going to be providing that today. In each situation that we have addressed this year involving use of force, we have weighed, we have shared names, but we have in each case weighed specific threats that officers are facing versus the value that we do have in transparency. And so we'll continue to work on assessing that and making that evaluation in light of releasing the information that we did last night. So I understand why it's being asked, but that is the process that we've used this year that we feel is appropriate. We have an obligation to make sure that folks are safe from harm. And at the same time, we also have to balance that against the interest of transparency. So.
Back to the rendering aid, was CPR an option? Should CPR have been used on Jazmir? And what possible reasons could there be for it to take so long for officers to approach? Somewhere between 6 and 8 minutes? I don't know if you have an exact time on that.
So as we mentioned several times, we do not have all the facts right now to accurately assess what occurred. That'll be part of the BCI investigation. So I don't want to speculate on that. Hopefully those are things that we'll look for between their investigation and our internal investigation at the same time.
Are there reasons why?
Yeah, the first thing, when officers respond to a scene, their first thing they need to do is assess the safety of the scene. After that assessment, if they believe that the scene is safe, then we go to rendering aid and calling for EMS. That's a decision the officers have to make at that point, and I do not have information at this point to reference what they were doing there. I do know that they were calling for ballistic shields to approach, and that was what you heard on some of the video.
And CPR, would that have been done?
I just can't I'm not going to speculate. I don't know right now.
Have either of you spoken with Jazmir's family, and can you speak to when they were given the video last night? Because I know at their press conference they said maybe they hadn't gotten it soon enough.
I've shared my condolences publicly. I certainly, my heart goes out to them. I haven't wanted to, impose. This is not about me, but certainly, they have my heartfelt sympathies. The family was given the opportunity to view the footage yesterday before it was released to the public. So we went through that process.
So without divulging the name of the officer, what can you tell us about this officer, the officer who fired these rounds?
The officer's file is available for public record request. I don't have details to share sitting here today, but that certainly can be requested and can be provided. As we've shared, he has spent nearly 5 years with the department, and that's what I can share here.
You mentioned how this has been one of a number of kind of high-profile incidents involving teens and police over the last year or so. Is there anything your administration is looking into or trying to do to help ensure that doesn't lead to any rising tensions between the community members, but maybe specifically teenagers and the police department?
That is exactly why we are going to be talking more about that use of force review next week. To be able to have those conversations, but more than conversations, take actionable steps to strengthen our policies, our practices, our culture. As I said, our officers deal with difficult circumstances, right? When you look at the number of illegally carried weapons being taken off the street, at the same time, we all want to make sure that encounters with police are safe. And that outcomes that are negative, outcomes that involve deadly force, are as least likely as possible. And so that will be our focus. That will be something, again, we talk about in much more detail next week.
Okay, we'll take 2 more questions. Bob?
This might be for the chief, but are all rifles department issued, or do officers buy their own rifles? Is this one department issued rifle or not? And can they be modified as in putting a silencer or anything
the officers, the majority of the officers purchase their own weapons. They're required to go through training and qualify with them, and then we document that information.
They are department issued, or?
No, the majority of the rifles are not department issued. We have some. The majority of the officers purchase themselves, but they have to qualify with them, with us, and they go through training with those as well.
Includes this one then?
Correct.
This one? Okay.
Derek?
When will the analysis of the 2 shell casings recovered from where officers heard shots be completed?
That will ultimately be up to BCI when they enter those in NIBIN, but hopefully, I would hope to have answers on that question next week.
All right, that concludes today's press conference.